I want to see this lesbian couple to the end of the earth and back.
Welcome. You're listening to Nuditea, a podcast where we get naked with our feelings while drinking tea. I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Wendy, and on this podcast we talk about food, travel, adult things, life, sex, our feelings. This episode is about our feelings. Specifically, our feelings on the Netflix original animated series, The Dragon Prince, which Kim introduced me to, and I binge watched. Was it this year or last year? This year, right? When was this? At some point in the last 8 months, I binge watched all 3 seasons that are currently out. And we just want to have a little chat about it. This has been a long time coming. I've had these notes in my phone since when I watched them, and it's been a while. So let's first talk about which teas we have.
Of course. Yes, I have a instant green tea matcha.
That one's the one from Catherine. Yay,
Thank you,
we're through
Catherine.
it all. It's been lovely. And I am drinking, oh shoot, I forgot the name again. What is this? It is
You did all that.
Icetus tinctoria, also called Woad.
Whoa.
It's an herbal tea. It's supposed to have slight medicinal properties.
Of course.
But it's delicious because it's basically 80% sugar in this form.
That's so unlike you to gravitate towards
It's
that.
such a nostalgic flavor.
Right.
And it's not that sweet. It's kind of like at the same level of the Jamaica that we had.
Oh.
Get into focus mode because The Dragon Prince is a wonderful show. I'm glad that you convinced me to watch it. I borrowed Kim's laptop for like multiple nights and just binged it every single night for, I don't know, it was about
3?
a week.
Oh, was it a week? I feel like it was like 3 days, honestly.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I can't remember. In usual me fashion, where I kind of like skipped ahead some parts that I felt like weren't super interesting. So I don't know. You definitely have a way more in-depth understanding of what's going on in terms of plot, because I probably missed 25% of the plot line.
Probably. Classic Wendy. Just like doesn't fully watch things. She just buffers through. And I think you suffer for like the story suffers because of that. But I guess we'll start with just a very brief synopsis. Obviously, spoilers will probably come up.
Yeah, I'll just slap on a spoiler alert in the beginning because I'm not going to try and avoid them.
Yeah, it's too hard to try to avoid them. Basically, we're in a fantasy world where humans are at in a war against the magical creatures of Zadia.
It's a fantasy world. The humans and mostly the elves, right? It's like elves, dragons, a bunch of other powerful magical creatures. The humans have been separated off because back in the day, like 1,000 years ago or something, they started using black magic or dark magic
Yeah.
because the humans weren't able to do their own magic. I don't know, there's some there's some stuff around that.
All the magical creatures of Zadia kind of are born with it, for the most part.
Yeah. So the humans wanted to use dark magic because they couldn't do magic, and in order to do that, the humans basically have to kill magical creatures and absorb their magical power. And the other magical creatures were like, we're not about that. Off you go. So they were exiled from the rest of Zadia, is the magical part of the land, right?
Yeah.
And they're stuck in like the human side where
Katalis.
Katalis, where there's like some kingdoms. The humans are spread out. I think Katalis is just one of the human kingdoms, right? Or is it the whole?
Yeah. There's like Delbar and stuff. Basically, they've been at war, and the humans took and what Zadians think, what everyone thinks, destroyed the egg that the Dragon Prince would have been born out of, and so there's just been this fuel, and everyone's like been
everyone's pissed because they're like, how could you? The Dragon Prince was so important. He's the son of the dragon who was essentially guarding the border between Zadia and Katalis, and the humans just want to go back. Some of them, kind of. It's complicated, it's not all just black and white on either side.
It never is.
Yeah, but essentially the humans have been taught and have grown up believing that a lot of the magical creatures are just so mean and evil and hate humans, and the magical creatures think that all humans are like filth and trash. Their souls aren't pure. All they want to do is dabble in dark magic.
Propaganda on both sides, basically.
Yeah, there's just a lot of racism going on, guys, and we don't want to see any more of that right now. It's too much. So this whole story surrounds the two princes of Katalis. And our other real main character is a moon shadow elf. Yes. Yeah. And, of course, the dragon prince. So let's begin. Yes. So I think we're going to start with some things about the show that we think they could do better on. And, you know, that some of them they have improved on, and then what we hope to see that they will continue to work on in the future. And then we're going to try and end this episode with things that we really love about this show, which I think we both, I really did enjoy it. Yeah.
I'm a really big fan of Avatar The Last Airbender, which if you listen to all these episodes, it definitely comes up. And the person who was the head show writer on Avatar The Last Airbender also kind of created and co-wrote this show as well. And you can kind of tell a little bit of similarities back and forth. It's Aaron Azaz? I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Close enough.
But yeah, so the things that didn't go well, do you want me to start with?
Yeah, sure.
And so the animation style is an interesting choice. There's obviously been the industry's been moving towards more like 3D animation instead of like hand-drawn 2D, probably because it's faster, or you can do more with it sometimes. But there was an artistic choice that they made for season 1, for the whole thing pretty much, but they have a very low frame rate, and you can tell, not with the fighting is good. If anyone listening to this has watched Ruby...
Nope.
It's Ben really likes to watch it, and he wanted me to watch Ruby, but oh boy, they were designing this new way of animation because it was supposed to be so good for fighting.
Yeah.
But what ends up happening, it's improved since 10 years ago. What ends up happening is the frame rate's so low that when you want those emotional moments, it doesn't really match up. It's very like choppy, so like the emotions coming on their face, and it'll kind of break it down, and it kind of takes you out of the emotional moments. It doesn't seem to match up. I think they heard this complaint, and for season 2, and I think even season 3, I think they've adjusted it, so everything feels a little bit more smooth. It's not like perfect, and again, that is our artistic style that they wanted to go for. So I am glad that it gets better, and I do like the character designs. I like the backgrounds. I like the animation, but it was very distracting for that first season, and it took me out of it too much, and then they fixed it, and if you watch them, you'll see it. So don't get deterred by it if that's like the one thing you can't stand, because they do kind of fix it.
Yeah. Or you won't see it, because the only reason I really felt it, I think, is because you mentioned it before I started watching it, in case I was like, oh, why is this so choppy? I don't want to deal with this, because you wanted to let me know that, it does get better, so stick to it because the storyline is worth it. Yeah, I really don't think I would have noticed it if you had not told me about it. And even then, I wasn't super bothered.
The other thing that we think doesn't do the greatest is some of the dialogue is sometimes a bit too cheesy. It is a kid's show, so some of the jokes don't necessarily land for me, and that's fine, but some of them really do, and I'm like, oh, funny. And it's not because it's older adult humor, it's just kind of how they said it or went about doing it. It just feels like, either too cheesy or too obvious, doesn't flow super nice sometimes.
Yeah, I don't tend to enjoy their verbal humor. I think I enjoy their circumstantial humor a lot more, like things that are happening to them or that have happened and their reactions to it. I think that was a lot funnier to me. I don't think I've laughed at like a joke that was meant to be said as a joke in the show, because you're right, it's like more targeted towards younger minds, and I think we're just beyond that now. And
that's kind of Last Airbender also kind of fell into a lot of its younger kid humor, but there was like circumstantial stuff, or like there was a line or two that like, oh yeah, that's funny. So I know that people love the humor in it, but when I was watching it, which I was like 20 23, 24, it wasn't as funny as maybe it would have been if I had been 14, you know. So.
Yeah, so dialogue, I think,
Could be
in
improved.
general, could be, not even just for jokes. I think sometimes when they're just speaking, I'm like, I think the people who are writing the script are confused about their target audience, because sometimes it feels like they're dealing with mature topics, and they're dealing with these topics in a very adult way, and the language reflects that. But then, like, the other half of the time, it's just like super focused on childish banter. And I'm like, kids at that age don't think or speak like that. Like, there's a good middle ground, I think, that they can try to reach, and it would feel a lot more natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not just the jokes. I think in general, the dialogue, they should just like pick one or the other.
I guess they're trying to play that, but they also touch upon very kind of adult.
Yeah. This is what I'm saying. Deep in my heart, I just kind of want the Dragon Prince to be an adult series, so I don't really have to deal with.
It's good to expose younger kids to these like adult topics in a very like kid-friendly show. So you need shows like that, and
there's just a lot of dealing with like death in this show.
Moving on to, so those are pretty much the two things that are like could be improved upon, and animation's gotten better. Maybe as you know, they write more seasons. If there's going to be more seasons, the writers will get a better idea of what they kind of want to do. But maybe they won't. Maybe this will be what it is. I'm still going to watch it if there's more seasons.
Oh yeah,
like it's not a big enough deterrent for me to be like, checked out. So.
Yeah, no, the story's still good. We're gonna get into it later, but like the world, it just draws you in. So I'm still here for it.
Yeah. So one of the frustrating things is the showrunner Aaron Azaz has been called out by Danica Herod about the workplace being a little bit misogynistic, maybe not the healthiest, kind of a negative workspace to deal with. So she quit back in November when the season 3 was going to drop. The people on it believe so much in the show that she didn't want anyone to boycott it. She believed in what they did. She would hope that circumstances in the workplace would get better.
Yeah.
But other people have corroborated, other people who worked have corroborated that like they worked for free for 2 months when like everything was like getting, you know, built, but that's because they believe in the show. And the showrunner Aaron, he denied these allegations, and also Wonderstorm, which is the production company, also backed him. So it's frustrating. I checked before we did this if there's been any update to that, and that was maybe one of the reasons why there wasn't going to be any more seasons, because or they'd have to find a new showrunner, and they might do that. But it's tough because you're like, I really love this show, but you hope that something like this, if they're going to continue with it, those issues have been addressed.
Yeah.
And because I'm not about cancel culture. Like, people really have to, I give them many chances, and there's a point where it's like, okay, I really can't.
J.K. Rowling, just gonna call her out by name.
Yeah.
She'll never learn.
She'll never learn. So there's you've been called out, actually make change, make that workplace safer for women and everyone who works in there. Because a show that has, we're going to touch upon it, like pretty good representation in it, to then have like a workplace that's
doesn't reflect.
kind of toxic.
Yeah.
It's not
It's
great.
very hypocritical. It's very ironic that the show has so many strong female characters that matter so much to the storyline and are such good characters on their own, which is already very rare to see in any type of TV, movie, series, that they don't have a work culture to be able to back that up. Like, you need strong females to be able to bolster ideas for writing strong female characters. You know, it's never going to feel right if we just have men writing female characters. You know, not that men can't write strong female characters, it's just that we need that conversation going back and forth. Like, what would a strong female do and think and act? And, you know, we just need more conversation and more conversations that include women when we're talking about women. And if the workplace isn't a comfortable workspace for women, then we're not going to get that. Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard as a viewer who I love this show and I really want to see more from it, but we can't keep letting these brilliant minds, these creators, kind of just
get away
with it. There has to be like these consequences, depending on like how extreme those consequences are. Like that's up to like the people who run the whole show to decide. But it's hard because you're like, I want it, but also I want the workplace to be great, because there's other animated shows where you can tell it's a very healthy workspace. Yeah.
And I think when you say you're not about cancel culture, I don't want anyone to think that you're just like going to continue supporting people. Like, the process of learning and unlearning misogyny, racism, whatever, it's a process. And I think we want to encourage creative people to continue being creative under kind of like a moral contract that they recognize their own wrongdoings. And I think the issue here is that there's been denials by the director, the producer, and the production company that already sets kind of an iffy tone. But we'll see. We'll see as time goes on how and if they want to impact some changes.
Because this is a lot like, I love the show Community, but from what I've heard, Dan Harmon as a creator back then was not a fun person to kind of work under. Yeah, it wasn't a great situation from what I've read. I think he's looked back on it and he regrets. And I think as a person he's kind of grown. He works on the show Rick and Morty. I haven't done research. I don't really watch Rick and Morty, but yeah, I haven't done research into has that changed? But it's one of those things that you learn about and you're like, why do creatives get so much freedom to treat people like shit because they're so creative? Like, we need this brilliant mind. Don't mess with their process.
It's because we're getting a little too far into this, but I think it's important for us to say, I think it's because as the creative backing for these projects, there's a lot of people and jobs and livelihoods dependent on their creativity, which puts them in a position of authority and gives them power that they don't necessarily know how to handle, because as a society we've all got prejudices and we've all got weird systematic judgments and feelings, and that impacts how we act towards other people. That's happening constantly. So I think we need, I don't know, more collaborative efforts so that one person isn't the only one controlling everything. Yeah. And that's hard, because when that one person is the one coming up with the whole story, what do you do?
It's their vision, right? This is their baby, and they clearly have an idea in mind. Some creators are better at collaboration than others, but some see it as this, and this is what it's going to be, and they don't really do well with other people maybe handling that.
It's important for everyone in the workplace to try and create a more comfortable workspace for everyone involved, and I think that should just be it. If the Dragon Prince has to be canceled because Aaron or whoever and the production company can't handle their shit and continues to make it a bad workplace for women, then so be it. If it gets canceled, I'm gonna feel sad that the story doesn't get to continue, but also that's what you get for continuing these toxic environments. Yeah. Anyway, before we just go off into a straight up another episode about misogyny.
Aaron also, he was kind of accused of the character Claudia. Her sexuality hasn't been straight up defined, although she was kind of on a date with Callum. So I guess there was a fan who is bisexual and was asking Aaron oh, is she bisexual, can you confirm? I don't really know if anything always has to be confirmed, but people want to see themselves represented. So fair. And I guess he was kind of being all oh yeah, she might be blah blah blah, but I guess people in the writers' room were no, he always wrote her straight. So it's queer baiting a bit. Yeah. Ugh, and tagging so I'm not in the writer's room, so, and I don't know why. Maybe he did write her as she began as straight, but can that not evolve?
Yeah. Maybe she didn't even know, maybe she's going through a bi-curious phase in her life.
She's only 16, I think, in the show. So it is that thing of, I think things can evolve, but if he's doing this and then he doesn't actually make that happen, that's really fucked up of him.
To play devil's advocate, he could also later on just be No, she's just straight. I guess that's like, sorry guys. I thought maybe she could have taken out like a little bi adventure and just like headed down that road, but I guess she's just straight now. Like you shouldn't force representation. That's not what people want to see.
Yeah.
And sometimes by like asking the creative directors to be like, hey, like, tell me, what is this person's sexuality? Like, you're kind of giving them, like, what do? Do you say, no, they're just straight? Then you get called out for not enough representation. You can give them a vague answer, but then people are going to be like, no, it seems like you're always going to write them as straight or always going to write them as whatever.
And I think it's kind of cool when sometimes it's the subtext you have to pick up.
Yeah.
It's not like a definite, like, oh, I said this. She-Ra and the Princess of Power, the reboot that they did recently, and it just ended. Honestly, that show, so queer, and I love it, and it's amazing, but nothing's really defined ever. I think 2 of the characters were confirmed later by the showrunner, Noelle Stevenson, as they're bisexual, but they end up in, like, a straight relationship.
Yeah.
So... I
think that's...
And she said, like, I don't really want to necessarily define everybody's sexuality.
Yeah.
It's subtext, it's there, it's whatever.
Yeah, and I think the goal is to be able to normalize it so
Yeah.
that we don't have to be like, oh, this show had this many, like, queer people. And it's just like, well, every show should have, like, representation on all sides.
But going on the representation...
Yeah, I literally just heard about this from Kim right before we started filming, but apparently there were some queer characters in this show, and their names were just never mentioned. Or
in
like
dialogue.
queer, or like asexual, or
non-binary.
Like just people who are a part of whatever LGBTQ community or someone's source of representation. Like, their names weren't ever mentioned in the show?
They're mentioned in the credits. So I know people were having some issues with, you have representation, but you're not actually, like, naming these people. Which, for me, I didn't notice when I was watching it. I read about it later, and I can see why people have qualms about that. It's one of those things that I don't necessarily, if it doesn't flow naturally in the dialogue, even though we've pointed out their dialogue doesn't flow super well. So they could probably do this. You can, like, mention their name. But if it doesn't come up, or they're, like, literally a side character where you wouldn't necessarily expect to hear their name, I think it's okay to maybe not hear their name. But if you're having to just wait for the credits, I don't know where I sit on it, honestly. I'm just like...
I don't want to step on too many toes, but I kind of feel like people are really trying to grasp at some straws here, because we do see a lot of representation in the show of named characters and some pretty important continued and prominent characters who play a major role in the whole story. So it's just like, is it just like, are we now at the place where, if you're a part of this group that's being represented, you all have to have names, and if you're not a part of this group, it's fine, you're a side character, it doesn't matter, you don't have to get named. Like, I don't know if people are pushing for the right things, because, like, I think having some LGBTQ characters not being named, again, just normalizes it, you know? It's subtle. You can have your own sense of, like, what you would like them to be, what they would represent to you. Why does that need a name?
Yeah. There's been, like, shows I've watched where they'll, like, say the character's name. I'm like, that really did not work in that dialogue, like, form. But they're just, like, they're like, we have to say their name at some point. Because maybe they'll come in later. But it's, even if you meet someone in their first scene, you don't hear their name. But then, like... number of seasons later, you do hear, like, their name. I think that's fine. I don't... Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to upset anyone who, if you were genuinely upset by not hearing the names of these people, that is your right. Your feelings are valid, but I feel like mine are valid too, and I just, like, I don't know if I needed to hear every single character's name. Like, what the fuck was the baker's name? I don't know.
I don't remember.
Right? Like, he was probably just a straight man.
And they do get names. Like, the creators could have been like, their name's never mentioned, I don't need to give them a name. They do give them specific names. They're just in the credits later, and so people know their names. But...
And if they're in the credits, maybe
literally
they'll come back.
Finguistic
girl.
Yeah, like, that could have been the character's name if they
Yeah.
didn't care. I think they do care. It just, I'm not really sure where
I'm
I
not
stand on
riled
it.
up about it.
Yeah.
It's some controversy, but I don't care. We're getting to the good bits
Yeah,
now.
the good bits. What the series does well. We'll start with world building.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really hard to make a realistic magic. What am I looking for? Magic.
Like fantasy world.
Fantasy world and like how people use magic. What are the rules to magic?
Mm-hmm.
That's something you really have to build.
Yeah.
And for it to make sense and for you to continually not mess up.
Yeah, like
later on being like, but you weren't supposed to be able to do that. You said that like 4 episodes ago.
we don't
but now
like to
we're
see
doing this.
loopholes because
Yeah.
that just means you didn't think it out well the first time around.
Yeah. And so I think this show, they slowly introduce the world to us and they're slowly building it up. The very first season, we very much stay within the Catullus or the human world.
Yeah.
And we are introduced to moon shadow elves and we kind of get we're kind of explained the whole magic system. We're explained dark magic and we're explained primal magic.
Yeah.
Right? And through our character Callum, who's very interested in it and is like, oh my goodness, I'm really good at magic when he has this primal stone. And through him, we easily get exposition to like how it's how magic works and stuff like that, but it feels organic enough.
Yeah, because I think part of the magic of this show is that we kind of go through the learning process with some of the characters. So we don't all start out being like completely knowledgeable of everything there is to know, because the two princes, the two main characters that we follow, are also going through the process of like understanding their own powers, the primal magic, everything that's going on around them. Mm-hmm. It's all new for them and for us. So I think that's why we get a lot of details in the world building that's super enjoyable for us to see.
Each book, each season, we are introduced to a new primal magic. There's 6 of them.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't notice that. Wow.
Moon, sky, ocean,
Sun.
stars, sun, earth.
Yeah.
And then dark magic's like the 7th, but it's not primal because humans made it. Each season, we slowly get closer to Zadia. Season 2, we are leaning into sky magic and we learn a little bit more about that. And then season 3, we're actually finally in Zadia, and it's actually really cool to kind of get to that point.
Oh.
Because we get all the magical beings, the world just feels really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And we learn more about the dragons and different elves, and that one's focused on sun elves. Basically, they want to do 7 seasons. Mm-hmm. That's the goal. And then each new season is looking at a different
primal magic.
And then I think the 7th season will be the dark magic that they'll look at. But I think next season's supposed to be Earth.
Ooh, fun.
If we get it. So,
I mean, I did just see that it was supposed to be released this year, but it's been delayed because of the pandemic. Fair. Mm-hmm. Shokugeki has also been delayed. I'm very hurt. What I really, really loved about introducing us to the magical world, the Zadia side, is all of the thought that they've clearly put into the creatures, because these are fantastic beasts. Sorry, I didn't want to draw the relationship to J.K. Rowling again. Just that aside, they are amazing, amazing creatures and races, and the flowers and the insects, like the vipers, even like everything, every like item has kind of their own little backstory and their own little purpose and use that the authors, they're not writing, the directors and the producers have thought out. And I also love that for every type of elf, every type of dragon, they have their own thing, right? Like the Sunfire elves, they're like smothered in gold and everything about their city is so bright. And the Moonshadow elves, like everything's blue.
They're very stealthy, like...
Yeah, like very moon, like very night focused. And they've got like that reflective pond thing going on. They're like dressed in blues. Like are they races of elves? I don't know. I don't know.
think so.
Race? Yeah. The
so,
different races of elves have their own like accents as well. Like what does Rayla have? Is that like a Scottish accent?
I think the voice actor, is doing Scottish, yeah.
Yeah, and then the Sunfire elves had another amazing accent. Like It's just so much detail that you get to feel distinct cultures and beings and places in the show that it just like, it really stimulates your mind.
Yeah. I will say maybe they're very much focused on elves. I feel like the magical creatures of it all is like you got your elves and you got your dragons. I do wish a little bit more you'd have those other fantasy creatures, but maybe we're going to see them, or maybe it's solely like we just have these elves and then we have these dragons and then these other creatures.
We've seen some weird ones, like that weird cat guy with the long tail and the little horns, and the banther, like that thing was around, and the other flying one that the moon whatever elf, I don't know the names.
It was like
of
a
any
phoenix.
of these
It was like a
things.
moon phoenix or something like that. Yeah.
So like all of these other characters were all beautifully done, and I want to just get sucked in. I used to also, fun fact, I used to draw a lot of dragons in elementary school. I was very into it. I drew like a dragon a day, and I'm just loving the design on these dragons. They all have their own look, and it's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing, the artistic creativity that went behind the dragons.
Agreed. So another thing we really like is the different character dynamics. I think like one of the strong things that they did in The Last Airbender, and as well as with this show, The Dragon Prince, is they have these juxtapositioned, might not be the right word, but we have like the different sibling relationships with Ezrin and Callum being stepbrothers, and then you also have like Soren and Claudia, their sibling relationship, and you kind of get to see the different ways that these characters support each other in that siblingship
and have conflicts with each other,
and how they deal with that. And you obviously have like different parental figures. Some mess up, but they all mess up. But yeah, I just think they're really, really cool, like interactions that you get to see, and they go through their own shit.
And even with the topics that they explore, like they talk about divorce, like Claudia and Soren's mom left when they were young because their dad is just a mess. Like that's not cool. And then their relationship with their dad is quite complicated. Like he obviously has a favorite and they feel it, you know, like and then with the stepfather-stepson relationship as well, like they're exploring a lot of really good topics, especially if they want to expose kids to some of these dynamics.
Because that's what like a lot of kids are growing up in. It's single parents. It's ones that have divorced, or like one of the parents have died, and just it reflects more of what the world is now. Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic. And it's never, they don't have any like one-dimensional characters, you know? Or I guess two-dimensional is the correct term. Like all their characters have some level to which you can sympathize or at least understand from their perspective. I think almost everyone, that you always see a softer side, a sympathetic side, a side where you're like, oh, you're fundamentally good. It's just that you're going after certain things in maybe like a dark magic way instead of trying to figure things out. Except for maybe Viren is a little, he
will not be if it continues, he won't be the end bad guy. Like, he's not the main bad guy. I
think it's gonna be Claudia.
We'll talk about like what we think is gonna happen in the future.
Yeah.
We just get to explore different people's like different moralities.
Yeah.
What's important to them, what drives them. Everyone has a drive about why they do things. Like when their actions happen, you don't feel like, oh, that's not something that character would do. Rayla, I was afraid was going to fall into a very boring, like, hero character. But they've given her a lot of different things to struggle with, and it's really interesting. And you're like, wow, you were going to let your hand completely get chopped off because you're like, I'm not killing Ezrin. And you accepted that so early on. There was never a time where you're like, should I do it now? Should not do it? She's like, no, this is what I'm doing. And everyone has their own reasons to do something, and that is very clear in the show and how they've structured it. So I think with Viren, it's so interesting that the person who is so good at manipulating is being so manipulated, and he can't see that.
But okay, here's the thing, he's definitely been being manipulated, but is he just being manipulated towards the direction that he was already headed, just much faster because now he has all this power? I don't know.
We watched 4 episodes before this just to refresh ourselves, and when Erebos is saying, when he's like, what is the plan? This dude doesn't actually know, and so Erebos is like, well, he does this whole question thing, he's all like, well, you know what the plan is, what do you want? You want this, don't you want this and this and this, but that means the destruction of Zadia, and he's clearly making Viren believe, like, oh yeah, this is the only way to get what I want, which is the prospering humanity, basically. And so he's basically the star manipulator, Erebos is, because he's manipulating the most manipulative man on the show. But I'm just like, it's so interesting when someone who gaslights their children and manipulates so many people can't see it happening to themselves because he's so blinded by, I have this job, I'm going to do this thing. I think it's also interesting that Viren is not someone, when he knew he had to go alone to the Sunfire Elves to get the job done, I think a lot of big bads would have been like, I'll send someone else. He believes that what he's doing is important. He believes he's the person that has to do it. So he's not someone who, I don't, Viren's not my favorite character, but I think he's very interesting as a bad guy right now. Because you're like, yeah, I get why he's doing it, but you're also like, Viren, you're so blinded at this point by hate and rage.
But I think that's a lot of arrogance as well. The way he was talking to the king who died. I forgot his name. What is his name?
King Herod?
King Herod? Herod? Yeah, when he was speaking to King Herod, it was very much like a, you're wrong, I'm right dynamic. So I think he's always been kind of stuck into that. So when he's being manipulated by Erebos, I think Erebos does such a good job of manipulating him because he's playing into his arrogance and just like, you are the one to carry them forth, how may I serve you, and all of these things to kind of just stroke his mighty ego and to make him feel like, yes, these are my decisions and this is what I want.
I'm the one who has the power, even though it's Erebos using him to display Erebos' power. Yeah. He's all like, I have the power now, I can destroy them all. He's very dark. He will definitely go to the point of killing. That's not even a question. So he's not a good person. I do think... We'll get again to what we think is going to happen in the future. But did we want to talk about representation, or did we kind of hit it? Just I really like Aunt Amaya. Aunt Amaya.
And Janai. Oh my gosh. I am here for it. I want to see this lesbian couple to the end of the earth and back.
Some people are like, oh, it's so rushed. I'm like, yeah, there was this whole prisoner situation, but sometimes you just want to fuck someone. Who says it's going to be a long-term relationship? It's all like, I like you right now. Let's make something happen.
And I'm totally okay with that.
Even just besides the LGBTQ representation, I'm even talking about Aunt Amaya being deaf. And she's a fucking badass. But I think it's really cool that that's got to be hard to animate, right? They've taken it upon themselves to be like, no, we want to represent people of the deaf community. And they also took notes in the first season. She has darker gloves. And people were like, actually, someone who uses ASL, American Sign Language, wouldn't actually wear dark gloves against a dark shirt.
Because it's hard to see.
So they lighten up her gloves. And with the increased frame rate, it's even smoother. And they're like, I've watched somebody on YouTube talk about, oh, they did a really good job, or he's translating, and they're like, oh yeah, they nailed it.
I'm pretty sure we watched the same guy.
Probably. There's not many people who have done it, so it's probably the same guy. And it's really interesting because I think people seeing this representation on screen are kind of like, ooh, I kind of want to learn ASL. And it would be really interesting and fun. And so I think what I've liked, it's the same thing with, I'm going to say it again, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Even though Toph was blind and we have Aunt Amaya being deaf, it's not hindered how they succeeded and how amazing they are as individuals, and they're just badasses.
They're such badasses, and I really loved the development of their relationship because you see two really powerful, very capable women just recognizing each other for their capabilities at first.
Respecting it,
Yeah, they respect each other. And I think like that's such a good starting point for their relationship to continue. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I didn't feel like it was rushed. I'm here for it. I love it.
Oh, I'm fine with it. I don't care.
It's probably like some of my favorite parts of the entire show is just watching their relationship develop and how they like end up working together and fighting together and being together. Like, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Like, talk about going from elves hating humans to suddenly you've got double the elf-human relationships at the end. Like, amazing. I love it. I think just like in general, like that melanin diversity is fantastic.
The non-binary individual who is a sign language interpreter.
Yeah, I also love like the height diversity as well, because it's not, because I don't know, I feel like generally when you have shows, the people who are in power or the people who are supposed to be super powerful are always like super tall and above the rest. But in this one, we kind of like see like little bitty old little Claudia being a badass with her dark magic. We see Ezrin, just a tiny kid, being the king and being very wise and powerful in his own way.
And not being swayed by everyone else. Like, you have to do this. I always find that with like king shows or shows about royalty and people becoming king, everyone's like, you have to murder people in order to set
the
precedent. Yeah,
fear is best.
But Ezrin's like, no, that's not right. My dad clearly taught me how to do this properly, or he's a really good kid.
And I think the first time I watched it, I just noticed that it wasn't just like an age thing. I noticed that it wasn't always the people who were in power were always like the tallest or the seemingly most powerful.
Right.
Yeah. Are we going to talk about favorite characters?
Yeah. Did you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay. Claudia is my favorite character.
Didn't see that coming.
So yeah, I think her storyline and where she's going to go is really, really interesting. I like that she's the voice of dark magic's not bad. Like, she's probably parroting what her father's told her when he was teaching her dark magic. And I like that she is so there for her brother. Like, I love Soren and Claudia's dynamic. They are two dum-dums.
The vines are killer.
They're two dummies.
Yeah.
But they care so much for each other, and they will do anything for each other. Yeah. And that really drives Claudia to do these not great morally things. And I like that it's a slow progression. That first season, I mean, she's got to kill some bugs, and everyone's like, whatever, cool.
Yeah.
And in the first season, she comes off like she's like the smarter one, but again, they're two idiots.
It just gets revealed that they're on the same level of dumb. It's just that Claudia, because she has this dark magic, she's way more powerful than her brother is.
Yeah. It's frustrating because, she's been manipulated by her father too, but since she is the favorite, she also loves, like, they both love their father.
Yeah.
And they believe he is so smart, and what he asks of them has to be the right thing.
Yeah.
But even when it's revealed that,
your daddy's crazy!
Viren, our dad, sent us off to do really shady, like, side missions when we went to go get the princes. And it's frustrating when you see Claudia, like, so instantly be like, oh yeah, Soren, you're kind of an idiot, you probably just misheard him. But I think
part hurt me so much. Like, it hurt me so much. Like, Soren's like, are you serious? I am an idiot. But you think I'm that much of an idiot? That hurts, sis.
And I think it's, their mother left.
Yeah.
And she doesn't want to think poorly of her father, and she doesn't want the family to break up. So that's kind of driving it a bit.
Oh, for sure. That's her, like, main motivation. She wants her family to be a family unit, and she wants no one to get hurt. She doesn't want anyone to die. Fair. But it drives her to, like, these really dark moments.
When she wants to reanimate Soren's limbs, she will kill a deer. She doesn't want to do it, but you can tell she's not, like, super bothered by, like...
She did not hesitate. She was just like...
Yeah.
She was just like, she apologized to the deer, and then she killed it, and then she revived Soren, and she did not give a single shit. Because, like, that's what she felt she needed to do to protect her family members.
So, come the end of season 3, she's still very much by Viren's side, Soren's left, and my goodness, this woman knows how to do her magic. She ends up, this is a huge spoiler, so she ends up killing someone. We know she kills someone to bring back her dad. And you can tell by, like, the physical transformation and all that stuff. And I think she's going to be a super compelling villain.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't even know if I need her to be redeemed. It's weird. Like, I'm interested to see where they take her. I don't really have a huge draw either way.
Yeah.
But
I kind of want to see this show push her to the point where her original moral drivers of keeping her family safe no longer apply. Like, I want to see her to get to the point where she doesn't give a shit about Soren anymore. And she's just here because she's on this path now. Like, I want to see her go full dark. I want to see it. I want it happen.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I think if she does get redemption, like, has a redemption arc, it's going to have to be, like, so earned. And it's going to have to be very long.
Yeah.
Her, like, dying for Soren wouldn't be enough kind of deal. But yeah, I do think there will be a point that she's going to, do something to Soren, and she would have never done that before.
Yeah. And I want to see it. I want to see it.
So, yeah,
I just so good.
Yeah, I think also I am here for a raspy voice actress.
Oh, yes.
Like her
so good.
And Katra from She-Ra. I'm all like here for those voices.
They're so good. They're so soothing. I would be happily manipulated by that voice.
So that's Claudia's just, in my mind, her trajectory and what she's going to do. And obviously I like moral ambiguity in my characters, and she's very much on that brink, and you can see she's teetering. But
oh yeah.
Your favorite character?
Yeah, I think Claudia is definitely the most interesting, and I'm probably the most excited to see where she goes. But I think I love, just from a very superficial point of view, I love that Ezran has this connection with animals. And I'm, like, kind of curious about where they go with the magic behind that, because it's like, oh, so humans technically do have some forms of magic, because this is not just like, ooh, he gets a vague sense of, like, what this animal is feeling. No, he's straight up being in the mind of the dragon prince. They're telepathically
I think
on another level.
I think it's very earth elf magic, I think.
I don't know.
The connection with, like, it would be, I think. So it's interesting because Callum is able to do sky magic later in the series. And it's interesting that, like, Ezran might have a little magical bit. Is that because all humans can tap into some form of magic, or is it like a lineage kind of connection, which I don't really want it to be that, but
you want people to be able to, like, work for it a little bit and, like, gain the respect of the primal magic,
because that becomes less chosen one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If they do that, it's humans probably could do magic. They lost the ability for some particular reason. We don't know. This is what I envision. And then they are slowly remembering, like, oh, we can do this. It's just about understanding. It's probably harder for us to try to understand it because we've been, disconnected from the magical Zadia world. But yeah,
I think he's probably one of the most boring but necessary pieces to this puzzle. Like, he's going to continue to be a very good and stoic kind of person on, like, there's no moral ambiguity there.
I wonder if that'll change.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like it would be very interesting if that does change. I'm doubtful whether it or not it will happen.
You do need some, like, consistently, like, good characters.
Yeah.
You can't all have them be like, ooh, bad, good, bad, good.
I don't know.
Because you do need balance in a show, for sure.
Yeah. And then I think to be kind of the foil to your Claudia, I am a huge fan of Soren and everything that he stands for.
I love Soren.
His half a brain cell, because the other half is with Claudia.
No. They have one brain cell and they share it. And now it's with Soren and Claudia has no brain cell.
It's so true. Oh, yeah. So I've loved his character arc from kind of like just a straight up dumb jock character to seeing his struggles with the relationship that he has with his father, because, like we said, their dad clearly plays favorites. Claudia is the favorite. Soren just wants to be appreciated. He wants some of that attention. He wants to be loved. He doesn't want to disappoint. He does not want to disappoint. One, because Viren is so scary when he's mad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get anywhere near that. And number two, like, he's been disappointing his dad his whole life. Like, all he's been able to do is be, like, a knight and just lead, like, some soldiers around and protect the castle.
But he's good at it. Like, he's the
is.
best at what he can be the best at. Because he's,
Exactly.
like, one of the Royal Crown Guards, and he's, like, 18, maybe? Like, that's pretty young.
Yeah, like, he's fantastic. But that's the thing, like, his father has never recognized him for his worth because Claudia
has the magic side, and Viren is very much the mage of the whole kingdom.
Yeah.
And the deal, so he's, like, they have that bonding there. But
yeah. So Soren, I just love that he went from being basically, like, having no thoughts or opinions or any tact of his own to really actually thinking about issues for himself and what he wants to see and what he thinks is right versus wrong. Like, when Viren straight up tells him, you're gonna make sure that the princes get into a deadly accident and never make it home. Like, he's just like, you know what? My dad's so smart. He's gotta have a reason for this. He goes from just pure acceptance of everything that his dad says to him to being like, Dad, really? You're gonna turn everyone into fire zombies right now? I don't know if that's cool, man. And then he dips, and, you know, I'm also pretty pumped to see where he goes. I think his storyline with Claudia's progression is going to be a very...
You're right, they're going to foil each other.
Like, it's going to be hard to watch because I think there's going to be some sad sibling relationship things.
I already felt real sad when they part. So in the episode that we watched, the last episode, we're like,
you're
Soren's
much more
leaving,
sympathetic
and
than
I'm
I am.
like, you need to have siblings. That's the problem.
I know, I don't have any siblings, and my family unit is very stable. So when she's like even the first time when she was talking to Ezrin about like how her mom left and like she wanted Claudia to choose where she wanted to go, and Claudia just like could not do it. I was like, yeah, whatever. You should have gone with your mom. Because, like, now your mom's all alone. So, great job.
But her mom was like, you should stay because Soren chose your dad, and Soren and you should stay together. So, this is a very big moment. They've clearly been together for 10 plus years, relying on each other. Yeah. And then Soren's like, can't you come with me? Like, this isn't right. Can't you see our dad is insane? But I don't know, because
she just can't deal with breaking up, like, fragmenting her family unit anymore. But it's just like,
like, I wish, like, it would make more, like, to me it would make sense that she would leave with him.
Yeah, it would.
But I think that goes to, like, Viren's kind of control or just...
Oh, yeah. Manipulation over her that... Yeah. I think part of it is she doesn't see what Soren or what Viren is doing as wrong at this point. And Soren does. So when he leaves and asks her to come with him, she's just like, but why though? We're chilling. We've got a big old sun staff. We've got a little, you know, fireman at that point. Not an army. She hasn't seen that. But like, you know, she's just like, we're all good. This is going to go so well for us. She still hasn't really felt what Soren is feeling. And I don't think she ever really will, because that's the path that we predict she's going down. So I think like for us emotionally, it would make sense for her to leave with Soren. But from her perspective, staying with her dad is the right thing to do because she thinks her dad is doing the right thing. Yeah. Ugh, the breaking up of the siblings. I already know it's not going to end well for one of them or both of them. I don't know yet.
Did we want to talk about, I guess, like, theories or what we want to see or don't want to see going forward if they continue with it?
I would like them to create some more troubles with Callum. I think maybe this is part of me like not wanting magic to come so easily to him, because I still don't really understand how he understood Sky Arcana, or however you say that word. I don't understand how he understood that primal magic, because he kind of just had like a fever dream and then woke up and was like, I get it. Whew. Like, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, so I would like to see him learn some more magic, but I would like it to be a little more thought out in the way that makes more sense to my brain. Maybe I'm also sharing that one brain cell with Soren and Claudia, and I just don't get it. And I would like to have Ezrin never learn any other type of magic.
Yeah, like
because
not
I'm a
like
little
writing the
runes
and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and I don't think he will.
I really hope they don't go down that path. I think I want him to just stick with his animal speech and that be his thing.
Do you think if there is a season 4, they're going to skip ahead of time? Like, time will have passed?
I think so, because like it just kind of ended. Spoilers. If it just kind of ended where the dragon queen woke up and she's like, "Oh my son, humans and elves together. Who would have thought?" Like, I think from then on, I'm expecting like a short period of peace where Viren and Claudia have to recuperate and rebuild an army of some sort and reassess like where they're going with life. Aravos is like in a freaking cocoon. He's just cocooning right now. We obviously have to wait for him to come out before anything can happen. Like, I think they're gonna have to skip ahead a fair bit from where the series last left off to be able to like actually show things happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they will also have had to like show change during that time, like how elves and humans have come together, or like, you know, what kind of conflicts and prejudices still exist, and all that good stuff.
I think it's interesting to think that Erebos is using Viren literally to get to Claudia.
He literally called him a vessel. I don't know why like Viren didn't clue in at that point. I was like, I thought you were here to serve me. Did you just call me a vessel? Yeah. Like, I thought he would. I don't know. Maybe he'll clue in later.
Because clearly, I think Claudia is stronger than Viren. And I don't know if it's... Do you think Viren might just die?
I don't know. I don't know how this black magic works. I thought about it. I was like, if Claudia dies, do you think Viren would die and Soren would also lose the ability to walk again?
I don't think so.
No? It's just like a straight fire thing? Like, she already killed a deer and a person for them, so they're just there to stay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I just thought about that today when we were rewatching. I was like, that would be kind of sucky for them.
Yeah.
Anyway, is it wrong of me to kind of want to see a semblance of a romantic relationship between Erebos and Claudia? I'm kind of interested.
I'm probably fine with that. Yeah, I wonder if Erebos is going to finally, like, at what point he escapes his mirror prison.
Yeah, I don't really know what the deal is with him cocooning. What does he become? Because he's not going to become like the elf form of Erebos.
A butterfly form?
Is he just like a giant moth or a butterfly now? What is that going to do?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh, maybe he can attach himself to Claudia and now she can fly. That'd be kind of cool. I would watch that.
Just a whole episode of Claudia flying around.
Hey.
I'm interested to see, like, how do you pick which dragon's top dog? Is it clear strength, or is there a democracy thing? Like, everyone's just cool. I think there was always kind of wars between everyone when the people were joined.
Yeah.
But once you split it, everyone had a common enemy. So, like, for the most part, the humans, they were kind of battling. But I think King Herod was like, we gotta stop doing this. We're clearly always getting attacked by Zadia people. And I think maybe it's the same for Zadia. Like, they had their issues amongst each other, but when you have a common enemy, people are like, oh yeah, humans
we're cool
suck.
with each other now, gotta unite.
I think because the theory is that Erebos maybe introduced dark magic to the humans in order to, I don't know, make it a little more equal. And I think the dragons didn't love that. And then he was like, Erebos, I think, is a big advocator for humans. And so I think they just imprisoned him in a mirror. That's kind of what I'm thinking. That's the theory I'm kind of going along with. And so the fact that he's back...
did get that. Did we get the scene or did we not get the scene where the first dark mage, he was talking about how, like, we just want to, like, be on an equal footing with... He was talking to the dragon, the previous Dragon King, and we just want to be equal. And the Dragon King was like, nah, I'm going to burn down your whole freaking village. And that's when, like, the first dark mage that was aided by Erebos, like, lashed out and, like, seriously maimed or killed this Dragon King.
Did they say that Erebos assisted them? I know that Erebos is the one, the voiceover about all the past stuff, but I don't know if we ever know that Erebos...
I'm gonna assume that he's definitely the one who, like, showed them about dark magic. That's just what I'm gonna assume.
That's what I'm going with, too.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if he was, like, there for these events, but
so I'm wondering,
maybe he was just another little slug in the ear at that point too.
Yeah, because I think they're like main drivers from this point, because a lot of got tied up in the end of season 3, because I don't think they knew if they'd get more books or seasons. So they're like, let's do a 3-season arc, and there's some like obviously loose ends. Like, so the things driving them forward are Erebos, and he's very mysterious. Like, we don't really know what his intentions are. He's very chaotic evil, it feels like.
Oh yeah.
And then whatever's happening with Claudia, and then I guess where people go, like what's going to be different, or is it going to be like, oh yeah, we gotta move back into each other's spaces, or like what's the struggle there? I think those are the 3 main things they got going for them after this, and what they have to follow through with. So I'm just wondering, like, what is Erebos' end game?
That's what I'm saying. Like, what do you want? What does Erebos have to gain by humans having dark magic and being able to do magic / humans conquering Zadia? Like, what is happening? Does he want to see like all the other elven races and other magical races? Like, does he want them to be wiped out? Does he want to, like, it kind of feels like he wants to be the, you know, backseat conqueror of everything, but like, what? Why?
I'm wondering,
though?
does he care about humans anymore? So now it's just a revenge thing. Like,
I
I've been
don't
trapped in this mirror
know.
forever, and screw you, dragons. I'm coming
But
for
also,
ya.
like, that mirror, it looked like that was a solid good time. He had, like, a cute little library office. It looked like he had, like, a patio area to go
peak
off
isolation.
To. Yeah, like, if you're put in self-isolation, at least give me a ton of books, you know, and, like, places to be able to go in this mirror and just, like, walk around. It's not like he was confined in, like, a room with no windows, you know?
Because Claudia's my favorite, I'm interested to see like some more like flashbacks between like life growing up with Viren and like her introduction to magic, and I'm like, I want to see her mom, whether it's in the past or like her mom's all like, yo Claudes, like, maybe don't do this.
Remember your brother? You still care about him, right?
Yeah. So I'm assuming we'll probably see her, because she's not dead that we know of, and just kind of like delving back into like even like all the characters' past a little bit would be interesting to see.
Ooh, I'm excited to see how the world handles our 2 interracial relationships, because, you know, I feel like there's going to be some pushback, but I want them to persevere.
I guess, because I'm like, where's Rayla's story going?
Her adopted
father,
family,
like he's trapped in Viren's nickels.
Isn't the one who's trapped in Viren's coins like the partner of her actual adoptive father?
They're both her adoptive
I guess they're
father.
it's true.
And her parents are also stuck in those coins. We're assuming. So
we're gonna also anticipate some of that.
So I think that's probably her journey going forward, because I was like, what do you do with Rayla now?
I don't know. Does anyone even know about the coins at this point? Amaya's like translator soldier, Gren G something. Yeah, he knows about it because he saw it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, forgot about him. He's still stuck in the dungeon. Poor guy. Wait, did he get released? Yes? No?
Yeah, I think
he's
he
free?
was. I think he's free.
Yay!
So I am interested to see where they go, and I don't want a chosen one thing where Callum knows how to do all the
things,
all the magics. So that kind of thing I want to avoid, and I don't want there to be a bunch of redemption arcs going on. Again, I don't know what they'll do with Claudia. Well, they can take me wherever it is, but I don't think Viren can really be redeemed at this point. Not really. And Erebos is just, he's going to be like the main bad at the very end.
Yeah.
Claudia will probably peter off at some point being the main bad, whether it's through death or just like she has to go through her own like shit. But
this is now going on over an hour. So we're finished here. I think that's all we wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to this episode of Nudity. You can listen to this one and past ones wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube and Instagram, all at Nudity Podcast. Okay, thanks for listening. Bye.
Watch the Dragon Prince.